Hi! Last weekend I went to Summer in the City and I did my book recommendation postcard exchange where I had postcards with my book recommendations written on them and then I would swap when people came to say hi to me. So in this video I'll be reading out all the book recommendations I got. First of all, I got loads of London themed cards. The first one is by Holly C. Beaumont and she says Stoner by John Williams or any of his books because he is just amazing. Then this card is by Emma the Snail and she says My Sitsy Book Rack is the book 11 by Mark Watson. The protagonist is radio presenter Xavier Ireland. Xavier moved to England 5 years ago from Australia and he left his old life and his old name and his country behind and started again. The book follows Xavier and studies the interconnectedness of all things. What I liked a lot about this was that minor characters were introduced as if they were major and you often saw the repercussions of actions. You also get a real insight into Xavier. And then another one by Emma the Snail, another London themed one, and she says My Sitsy Book Rack is Saffy's Angel by Hilary McKay. It's a mundane but very nice book revolving around an incredibly endearing family. It's a kid's book, but it's really good and quite short and worth a read. It works well on its own, but it's also the first book in the Casson family series. Then I have one from Rachel, which is a postcard of the Globe Theatre, and she says, I hope you're enjoying Summer in the City. My book recommendation is Eleanor and Park. It's a not so stereotypical teenage love story with first love and loss. A really great read that really drops you in the mindset of two totally different people. Make sure you have a box of tissues on hand for the end. Happy reading. Then this one by Woe Chloe. Oh, it's in Dutch. It took me an eternity to think of something that you might not have read yet. I hope that you like this one, and it is called Een Schitterend Gebrek by Arthur Japin. There's also an English edition of this, but I'm not going to tell you guys what it is because I might make a video about this in the future. Another London themed card. This one is by Evelyn or Chibi Hako on Twitter, and she recommends Unwind by Neal Shusterman. It's science fiction and dystopian. It takes place in a world where abortion doesn't exist, but when your child gets 13 years old until it's 18, you can have them unwound, which means they're taken apart to be implanted into other people's bodies who need it. Warning can make you question humanity, anxious and scared of the future. Thanks, Evelyn. Then there's this adorable Disneyland card by Becca or Less Great Gatsby. She recommends The Beautiful and the Damned by F. Scott Fitzgerald. This book follows Anthony Patch, a 1910s socialite, his relationship with his wife and his alcoholism. Never have I despised two characters more than Anthony and Gloria. Their relationship is doomed the instant it hits the page. This book is so well written. It felt like they were friends and I really loved reading this book. The words are so lyrical and it really is just as great as Gatsby. And then there's also a quote on it that says, I shall go on shining as a brilliantly meaningless figure in a meaningless world. Then there's this beautiful card and it has a silver pen that was used on the back. It is by Eve or the Fangirl Club on Instagram or Eve Victoria. My book recommendation is All the Truth That's in Me by Julie Berry. The book is written from the perspective of Judith, a young girl who 2 years ago was taken from her home of Roswell Station along with her best friend. Judith returned but is now ignored and considered to be cursed as she has been maimed in a way that disgraces even her own mother. Her best friend does not return. It is written in the second person, almost as a series of love letters to her childhood friend, Lucas, telling him what she cannot say out loud. As the story goes on, you find out what happens to Judith only as she reveals it to others. I hope you enjoy it. Then I have two Hello Kitty cards from two friends. Tom recommends World War Z because, and I quote, it's like soup's unique and shiz. The second recommendation is This Star Won't Go Out by Esther Earl. Basically, I have just started this book and I love it and I need someone to join this emotional roller coaster with me. And it was Alexis who wrote this postcard and her Twitter is Schmurful. Then there's this lovely card with little fairies eating fruit and I think it was like colored in by hand. Gorgeous handwriting. It says my favorite book of all time is Frances Hodgson's Burnett's The Secret Garden because it reminds me massively of my childhood and I enjoy it even more now than I did back then. It's such an easy, enchanting read and I really like the idea of sickly children with problems as a result of parental abandonment getting better because they feel happy and loved. Then there's this card that says Logic will get you from A to B, imagination will take you everywhere. And on the back it says I greatly recommend Look Who's Back, translated from German. Apologies, this one is a play, but Harold Pinter is the king of one-act plays. Can't read this one, but I will look it up and put it in the description. Or anything else he's written. And this one is from Charlie Olivia. And actually the first postcard I got was this one, which was handwritten in a notebook, and that totally counts. And it is Me Before You by Jojo Moyles. This book will make you laugh and cry, hopefully, and it is quite an easy read. This was a recommendation from Hannah _Twig. Then I got this card, which is one of my favorite Renoir paintings. This is Emily or Emily Y Winter on Twitter, and she recommends Every Day by David Levithan, Unwind by Neal Shusterman, and Flower Flappers by Judith Mackrell. Then there is this really lovely map of England postcard. She recommends Lobsters by Tom Ellen and Lucy Ivison, and there's a quote from Phoebe Buffay, "She's your lobster." Okay, so I'm not going to lie, the quote above may be why I initially bought the book, however, who can resist a good friend's quote? This book is a shiny new contemporary gem amongst the usual teenage angst. A story of Sam and Hannah, two 18-year-olds in search of the one, with only one summer to do so before university begins. This book will have you crying with laughter, cringing behind the pages, and beaming from ear to ear, riddled with truth, friendship, and vulnerability. A must read for this summer, and this is from Chelsea, or Chelsea Jade 170 on Twitter. 3 more left. I have this lovely postcard from Art Equals Happy, and this was written by Taya, and she says, "I was in an amazing bookshop the other day and saw a quirky book called Life in 5 Seconds, and I thought you might like it." And then I have a card by Sable Cott. She did kind of the same thing where she gave out these cards to people, and it has a really cool wax seal with an S on it and a little drawing, and as you might be able to see from the drawing on it, it is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. This book is everything I could have possibly asked for. A beautiful faux Harry Potter metafiction, characters who are filled to the brim with geek, and what really stole my heart, characters that fall in love by reading. And then finally, there's this card that says "Let It Grow," and this is from Astri. She says, "The Heather Wells series by Meg Cabot. The first book is called Size 12 is Not Fat. The series is like YA for adults. The main character is funny, brave, and realistic in a weird way. Great for 20-somethings." So those are all the recommendations I got at Summer City. I'll put all the information in the description, and I'll talk to you guys later. Doei!